All right, so I intend for this to be interactive, a little bit interactive. If there's too many questions and it's going to derail the presentation, we'll hold them till the end. But feel free to shoot your questions or write your questions, I guess, in the Q&A, and then Caitlin will stop me and we'll address those questions as they come up. I just wanted to kind of share my experience with Autodesk licensing. It's changed a lot over the years, and because of that change, there are times when people don't go with the change, don't know about the change, and they end up fighting license compliancy. So I thought we would just go over where the licensing is at now and what is expected of, or what you can expect, I should say, of your license. So I'm going to go ahead and move to my next slide, get my face off of there. All right, so there are a couple of things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how you control the licensing, and that's in the Autodesk account. That's where the users get added, the software is assigned, and then there's a couple of other things that we can do in there. I wanted to show you around in the Autodesk account. But one of the things I want to make sure we talk about is that Autodesk has done away with network and perpetual licensing. So the only thing that is available currently is going to be your named user. And with a named user, it means one license, one person, one computer at a time. So we'll go through that in a little bit more in a moment, but I just wanted to introduce that because as we walk into the Autodesk account and you're adding users, I just want you to be aware of what the structure is. So here the Autodesk account is controlled by two different positions or roles, the primary admin and secondary admin, but it all starts with the contract manager. So the contract manager is considered the contract owner, and this is the person who manages payments, renewals, and receives all the emails that Autodesk is going to send out. Now, the one thing with the problem, I should say, with the contract manager not being the person that controls the software is that each time something new is purchased, if the contract manager and the primary admin are not the same person, then a new team gets created. And I'll show you the teams. And teams aren't bad, but when you're not expecting them, they are kind of a pain to work with. So let's go ahead and jump into how to get into the Autodesk account. There are a couple of ways that you can get in. You use your browser of choice. I'm going to use Google Chrome, and you just go to autodesk.com/account. Now, this is actually going to redirect me to manage.autodesk.com, which you can do. And if you have not already signed in, since I've been signed in today, I've come in. Otherwise, it will bring you to your credentials to sign in. Now, each individual user will have unique Autodesk credentials, Autodesk account credentials. But the person, I call this the company account because you're the one, the company, whoever the primary, secondary admin, the primary admin signs in to the company account and then adds users, assigns software, and allows management to other users. And so you sign in to your main company account, although the account is truly assigned to the individual user who is the contract manager by default. So it's going to be your email address and then whatever password you've set up. Now, if this is your first contract or you're new to creating this, or the contract manager, you're new to the purchase, then it gets created. If you've never been in an Autodesk account before, you will be sent an email, and in that email, you will need to choose the action item and finish setting up your account, which basically is going to be add a password, and that will be what authenticates your credentials. And then you need those credentials to get into your account where you'll access your software, and also the same credentials will be used to sign in and use your software. So here we are in the Autodesk account, and what we're going to talk about is the user management right now. So with the new named user access, you will have the primary admin will have by user and by product and by group. We're not going to talk about groups today, but under user management. So the first thing you need to do is get your users added in. and or as you purchase software, then you need to add that software, add that user that software has been purchased and assigned, or to assign it. So we have quite a few users in here, but if you needed to add a new user, you simply choose the invite user. You put in their first name, last name, and email address. I'm just making one up here. Actually, we could have used Caitlin at this point. Obviously can't talk and type at the same time. All right, so we're going to choose send invite. And then if the user's already in there, you'll get a message that says they are. Otherwise, they get added to the top of the list, and then they show, their status shows as invited. You simply then pick on that user, and then you can assign whatever products are available. Now, so this particular, my user, let's say I want to assign them a seat of AEC Collection. I simply find that product and pick the assign button, and it gets assigned to them. Now, when you don't need a user in there, I mean, it's relatively simple how that is controlled. Now, let's say that you want to see who all has been assigned the AEC Collection. I know this person has. Then I can choose by product, and I can go in and pick on the particular product I want to check. So, and this tells me that out of 40 seats, I have 7 available. So that means that 33 of these seats have been assigned. And if I pick on the product, it shows me the list of 33 that actually have been assigned the software. So if I go through and I find that one of the users in here is no longer with the company, I can unassign the software by picking the unassign button. Let's go find me, since I don't really need it, this one. So let's say that this Denny Cox has left the company, so I simply choose the unassign button, and then my user list goes down to 2, and my available seats go, or my user list goes down to 32, and my available seats goes up by 1. I can then come back to the user, and I can find that user and delete them. I can also search for the user, which makes it a little bit easier to figure out. And I'm going to look at this. There's a lot of me in here. Wow. And then I pick the user, and you simply pick the trash can. Now, the next thing would be, if you want to have a user that helps with the user management, then you could make that user a secondary admin. If I go through my user list again, let's just go back here and clear. Well, actually, you could see it there, that we have multiple secondary admins, and those are the users that have the same permissions to be able to add users, assign software, and remove users or remove software, change the role if necessary. But then you'll see that my applied software user is the secondary or the primary admin. I went right past it. Denny Cox. There we are. So I'm the primary admin, and if we look at where we can see it as a reseller, I am also the contract manager for that, which we can kind of check here as a primary admin or as the account owner. I can look under subscriptions and contracts, pick on the contract. It's going to list your products by product, but then the contract manager information is up there. So it could be the secondary user is looking, but the secondary user or the secondary admin is not the contract manager, so there will be certain things that you'll be limited to be able to do. So it's very simple to navigate around in the Autodesk account. I feel like it's just not overly intuitive, and that is why I wanted to show you around in this. All right, I think, let me go back and just check this. So we talked about primary admin, secondary admin. Let's talk about a little bit about the team. So if we bounce back in here, so you'll notice that I have multiple teams inside my Autodesk account. Now this, I will show you this. We do also have, my user has been added to this company as a secondary admin, which means I get to see what's in their account as well. You need to be a little bit careful about this because you don't want whoever has access to this to accidentally kind of cross-contaminate the teams. So if you have, let's say, an IT group that works with your company and you add that IT company in as a secondary admin with their company credentials. So let's say it's Denny Cox at imit.com. Well, if I use that same email address for your company and a different company because I'm an outside source, well, that means that when I sign in, I will see all the teams from the different companies, and I think that that's dangerous. So if you're going to have an IT source be a secondary admin, it's safer to have them as an admin, and it could be IT at yourcompany.com, at yourdomain.com. So just kind of keep that in mind as you are kind of working through things. And then we talked about the assigning. So the teams, you see the teams both by user and by product. And each team may have its own product. So let's go here, for instance, we have our products are organized. So in this team, we have our BIM 360 stuff. So we have BIM Collaborate. And then on our main team, then it has all the rest of our software. Now, these teams can be named whatever you want. This is just a label. And each time a particular person, let's say the contract manager was me or is me, so every time I order software, if I'm not the primary admin, then a new team is going to get created with my name and 4 random numbers. Now, this isn't impossible if you absolutely want a different contract manager, so that goes to the people that pay the bill, and the primary admin is in your CAD department. Just know that every single time new software is purchased, it's going to be added to a new team, and what we'll need to do is come back to that team and merge them, or go to Autodesk and get them merged. We cannot merge teams, but we can create new teams. Now, where teams are really beneficial is for either different offices or different departments, when you have different people in either the office or department, that you would rather have them manage their own license independently. So then what you do is each team has the bucket of licenses, as I refer to it, that get put into that team, and then whoever a primary or secondary admin are for that team will see what we're seeing here. You'll be able to go in and see what's assigned, see who's assigned, and make the adjustments as necessary. Now, I did make the reference to, one other thing about the team. If you do have separate teams, like we're separated by our BIM 360 stuff and the rest of our software, then you will have to add users to each team. So if I have somebody in my company that needs both an AEC collection from my main team and a BIM 360 Collaborate or a BIM Collaborate Pro license so that they can do the cloud collaboration in Revit, then I would have to add that user to each team and then assign the appropriate software from each team. Now, when you're adding users, so a lot of times the BIM 360 products are purchased by the company that's running the job, that is the host of the project. And then so you can add people outside of your company into your Autodesk account and assign them software. And then that sometimes is I guess it depends on how the company structures their finances, on how they do it. But the company or the people do not have to have the same domain as your company to be able to be added and assigned a license. All right, so let's go back here. Now, the other thing that we can do in the little gear in the upper right-hand corner is where we can make our changes. So by just selecting the gear, we'll let this spin. Hopefully it's not going to take forever. What it'll let me do is it'll allow me to change my team name. Okay, so all I have to do is pick rename, and I can change this from being Denny-2268 to being ASTI Basic CAD or something, or whatever you want it to, whatever makes sense. I'm also going to say that a majority of the companies, depending on if you're not separated by office or department, you have one person or two people that manage your licenses, it's not necessary to have multiple teams. So in that case, everybody would be on one team, And it makes more sense for that team to be named what the company name is rather than what the contract manager at the time that this was created's name is. So oftentimes companies will find usernames in here that are no longer with the company. And I just want to let you know that that can be changed. We can also create teams. So we can create a team, and then we can move assets from one team to another. The one thing we cannot do is we cannot delete teams. So if I create a new team here and I move software into it, I can move the software around, but I won't be able to delete the team. And in that case, we have to go to Autodesk and get that done by them. And that's something that you can reach out to your customer success person at Applied Software, and they can help you with that. Or you can reach out to tech support, and we can help you with it as well. So creating a team is very simple. You give it a name, and then boom, it gets created. And then the next thing you might need to do is move software from one team to another. So what I think I can show you this, maybe not, but what you're going to do, I'm going to just check and see if there's anybody assigned. So the kind of the rules are nobody that's assigned. If any of the software is assigned, then it can't be moved from one team to another. So you're going to have to unassign the software. So I'm looking, and he is not currently assigned the software. So I'm going to check and make sure I'm not assigned the software. So that means that this software in this team, which is media and entertainment, can be moved. So then the way that you move it is you go into the team that you want the software in. So I want it moved to my main team. I might have to do this backwards. And then I'm going to go and tell it I want to move my software. So then I go back up to my actions and say move my subscription. Okay. So the team I want to move the software from is going to be the media and entertainment. And then these are, I can't move any of these. So these are not selectable. So my media and entertainment, I'd have to move software into this. So this means that either I'm not the contract manager of this particular group of software, or if it's the AEC collection software, we won't ever be able to move that because it's tied, or actually let's go pick this. Any of the BIM software, we won't be able to move that because the BIM software is tied to a hub, and that hub is where your cloud models are managed. So if we had, so I don't have any software that I'm able to move around, which is unfortunate. I thought I would be able. Let's go to media and entertainment and see if I can move. Nope. Oh, actually, let's do it this way. Sorry. This is what I was thinking, because the software is currently on my main team. So I need to be on the team that I want to move the software to, which is media entertainment. And then I'm just going to check and see if there's product there. And currently there's no product there. So now I can go to my actions and say, for this media and entertainment team, I want my media and entertainment collection to be there. So I'm going to say this is the team that currently has the software. And then I should be able to move down. This would be where it were if I were able to move it, but I'm not. I can move anything that I can move is selectable. So I'd have to go in and do a little bit more research. And maybe who I'm signed in as, I'm not owner of that, is what that message is saying. But anyway, that's what you can do within your Autodesk account, is you can create teams. You can move anything. So you can move AutoCAD, AutoCAD LT, that type of software. If you have AEC Collection, again, Autodesk is going to have to do the moving of that software. And that's something that you can get us to help you with. All right, let's bounce back into the, I mentioned it at the beginning about the users, but let's go back and let me point that out, is when you add a user to an account, then that user, let's go back to the one I just added myself to. When that user is added, for the very first time, the status of that user is going to be invited. And it looks like all of my statuses are verified, which means that all of these users have an Autodesk account. So when I add a user, actually, let's add Caitlin. Did I spell that right?
Caitlin.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to spell it L-I-N, not Y-N. I'll spell it right. Okay. So this is Caitlin's first time of being added to the account. So when I add her, now generally you're going to add someone in assigned software, but it doesn't have to be. So I can add Caitlin and notice that her status is invited. Now, if that status doesn't resolve to verified, so when I go in to pick on Caitlin, for instance, when her status does not resolve to verified here, well, Caitlin has one too. Dang. So it resolved to verified, which means Caitlin has an Autodesk account. And
Nice.
now I can assign the software. So this means that Caitlin will not be sent an email that invites her to create her account. She's only going to get an email if I assign her software. So if my whole plan is just to add Caitlin and then change her role, I want her to be a secondary admin, I want her to be able to help me manage users in here, then this is all I'm going to do. She remains without software assigned, and she comes in, and so she's added, and now when we see her on the list, she's going to come up with a secondary admin credentials. And I didn't see her in there, so I'm just going to refresh, and then she comes and shows in there. Where are you, Caitlin?
I'm right here.
She's hiding. Okay. Well, she should be on my list now, but I'm not seeing her for whatever reason.
While you're looking for me, we did get a question regarding this. Anne said, people are using my AEC collection but have not been invited or assigned.
We would need to look at that. How do you mean? Are they signing in as with your credentials using it? Or what makes you make the comment that they're using your AEC credentials? I'm sorry.
Once she replies, I'll let you know what she says.
Okay, because it shouldn't be. So this is one of the things that's going to raise the eyebrows of license compliance. If you have multiple, so each user has to have an account and has to be assigned software. If that's not the case, then you're overusing that one license. So if we logged everybody in, so let's say that we only had me in my team and assigned software, and then I went from computer to computer to computer, signing people in using my credentials, that is a compliance issue, and Autodesk will eventually send you an email and tell you have to spend money to fix that. And so that's why you need every single person to have their own license. And if you're signing everybody in with one person's credentials, then that would be the number one thing you need to fix, and that is something that we are happy to help with. And it's very important because Autodesk has no mercy. Not knowing the rules doesn't work, doesn't matter. So just kind of keep that in mind. So hopefully that. Okay, I'm seeing.
Oh, you saw her reply?
So this is, I'm looking at that. So the Autodesk docs, so when you assign an AEC collection to somebody, they get Autodesk docs. That's part of the AEC collection. That gives them access to any project that they're invited to via the internet. So if you have licenses, AEC collection licenses, and only 31 or 21 people invited to docs, and that depends on how you are set up. Are you talking that they're invited to docs inside the Autodesk account? Let me kind of show you what I mean by that. So you can assign by user. I'm just going to mess with actually, I wish Caitlin would show up. It would be nice to mess with her. Or did I add her to the wrong team is what I must have done. So I'll use myself. Let's have me spin up. So what I can do, I have the AEC collection assigned, but I can't control products, but I can control the services. So it looks like I can't even, I mean, docs is just going to be assigned. So here are all the applications that come with the document management is automatically assigned. But this is where you can when the product is owned and you have a subscription for the product, you can't control what products people use, but you can control what services. So if you have extra docs assigned, then you can assign them or unassign the docs. Now, there's oftentimes, especially if you have just migrated from network to the subscription, the way that Autodesk did things when the AEC collection first came out, they gave a seat of docs, 3 seats of docs to every network seat of AutoCAD or AEC collection, excuse me. And those ended up sometimes just moving over with the user, but you don't need docs for users that have the AEC collection. But the way the network licenses were managed, they were in this old portal called the Classic User Management, and the new products are in the new user view, so by user and by product. So I would have to get with you and maybe a one-on-one, and then we could take a look at what you are saying. So then depending on how the docs is, where you're assigning them may make a difference, okay? Are there any other questions on the Autodesk account or this aspect of licensing?
I don't see any yet, but I will let you know if they come in.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. And the next couple of parts are coming more from technical support than the licensing, what is the name of this, rights, rather than the rights. So the Autodesk account is kind of where everything rights related is. You can install AutoCAD. Each user can install AutoCAD on up to 3 computers, but I think I have that written in there, but they can only use 1 computer at a time. So this is where having multiple people signed in using one person's credentials, you have created a license violation by having that one license, because that one user has one license, being used in 2 places. So even though it's legitimate for a person to have a license, say, installed at work and at home, go back there. It is allowed, but that person cannot be in both computers. AutoCAD cannot be running on both computers at the same time. Now, this is way different from the perpetual license, which was serial number activated. And even though you were only supposed to be using it on 1 computer at a time, there's no tracking. In the older versions, there was no tracking. So people would get up from work, leave, AutoCAD running or whatever, go home, and then work from home the next day and start the software, and it didn't cause a problem. Now it is a problem. So because it's a subscription license, if that is your practice, once you go home and open the software there, you are in compliance violation because you've got 1 license open on 2 computers at once. And Autodesk does keep track of that, and that is where your compliancy audits are going to come about. So it's very hard, I think, but it would require kind of a workflow change. If you should close your Autodesk product on your computer when you're getting up and walking away for the evening. That way you're safe. It doesn't matter if you go home at night and then you decide to work from home the next day without that being the plan. It's fine because AutoCAD is closed on the work computer. You could open it at home or on your laptop or whatever and know that you're only running it in a single location. So those are the things that people get tripped up the most on. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about when you install the software on your computer, then there are a couple of licensing components that get installed. And these licensing components are cloud-based components. So they're installed on your computer, but it's what basically how, well, for one, the Autodesk spies on you. Probably shouldn't use that word, but that's how Autodesk tracks the usage. And the other one is when every 30 days, Autodesk or your software, whatever software you're running, is going to go to the cloud and it's going to check the contract and make sure it's still valid, and the user, and make sure the user is still assigned software. So this is a little bit safer over the perpetual license. So you can't have your individual employees cannot take your software like they used to be able to do with perpetual licenses. If they had the serial number and the product key, they could get it. Typically, they could get it installed and activated. That's not the same. If you remove a person in the Autodesk account, you remove access to their software by unassigning them, they can no longer use that software. So there's a little bit of a safety net there. But when you install your software, there's two components that are going to get installed, the Autodesk licensing service and the single sign-on component. Now, the reason I want to mention this is because there are often times that these two services or these two components cause problems in getting into your software. And so this is telling us the next two bullets are just where those two different components are installed on the service or on the computer, excuse me. And then those components, when Autodesk creates a new update for them, those updates are going to be presented to you in your Autodesk account. Now I don't believe I have any licensing components, but let me, not your Autodesk, well, it's going to be presented in your desktop app. Every install of AutoCAD installs the desktop app. The desktop app is how Autodesk currently presents you with any updates available. So Autodesk has updated this app since, I guess I want to say it's been recently, so either 2022 or 2023. So if your Autodesk app has a red and blue A, it's going to need to be updated. So you won't see you won't see accurately what's in your Autodesk account without doing that Autodesk app update. But once it's updated, you can come to the down arrow, which is where your updates are presented, and this will present you with all of the updates that are available for all of the software that you have installed. Now it's kind of nice because you'll notice what I have installed over here, and it's a little bit color coordinated. So all my AutoCAD-based software is going to be red. So I have AutoCAD MEP, and I have just regular AutoCAD. So those updates are presented in red. Civil 3D is kind of the purpley color. Revit is blue. The Inventor stuff and the manufacturing stuff is going to be yellow. And any licensing updates are going to be gray. I have the current licensing on my system already because if it's presented to me, I update it. The license updates are required. If you don't do the license updates, you're liable to run into problems such as the license manager is not functioning or isn't properly installed, or your license checkout timeout. So those messages and that pop up when you start your software are 99% of the time caused by these licensing components not being updated. So anytime you get those errors, the very first thing that I would do is go in to your Autodesk desktop app and check that and see if there are any licensing updates. Now, if you do not have admin privileges on that computer to be able to install software, you won't be able to do these updates. So in that case, you'll have to have your IT help you or have them do it. Those updates in general can be downloaded from the Autodesk account, and we do that under all products and services, and this is where you also access your software for installation. So the way that the software is presented now, if you have a collection, then you will see a little box for each individual product that is in product and service that is in that collection. And as you saw, maybe you didn't notice, but when I went in under user to show you there are 44 products, and it looks like about maybe 5 or 6 services. But anyway, so you will have them all listed here. If you have multiple collections, you have the AEC collection and you have the product in design, then you're going to have even more. Now, one thing it will do, both those collections include AutoCAD and all the AutoCAD-based products except Civil 3D, but you will only see AutoCAD listed once. All right, so then the way that you access the software, basically if it says install, it's a product. If it says access, it's either a cloud service or it's a non-application service. Okay, so the way that we work, I'm going to go ahead and just do it with AutoCAD. I believe that you would want to download the software. Now, Autodesk does, by default, if you pick install, it's doing a web install, and their new installs are very cryptic, to say the least. And if you just do the install from here, it does a web install, and it is impossible to find and reinstall the software. You have to come back in here and reinstall it from the web. My preference is to download the software, and when you download the software, it just automatically downloads to the downloads folder. If you haven't already approved for multiple products or multiple files to be downloaded, you will get a pop-up, and the pop-up will say, do you want to allow multiple files? And it's only for the Autodesk web realm, so you want to say yes. My opinion is yes, otherwise you'll never get the second product or the second file. And if you try to install with only one file downloaded, you're going to get errors. And the errors could be you don't have enough files. You could, I mean, they range, they're crazy, because some of them are very good and tell you exactly what the problem is, but some of them are very obscure, and it's like, well, what exactly is the problem? So then like I said, those products are downloaded. Looks like I have a couple of seconds left, but they're downloaded to your downloads folder. And you can access these files directly from your downloads folder if you'd like. That's completely up to you. But one thing is AutoCAD is AutoCAD regardless of where it gets downloaded from. So this AutoCAD is not just for me. This AutoCAD is for anybody who's given an AutoCAD license inside the Autodesk account. So if you're going to install it on multiple machines, download it once, move it to a shared location on your server, and then you can install it from there. And the way that you install it is you double click on the first file only to get it to install. Okay, it just looks like it finished. So the first file is the 001 underscore whatever the number. AutoCAD has 2 files, and like Revit has 5, I think, for 2023. You're only going to double click on the first file, and then that first file will begin the program extraction, and the program will extract to a specific location. You get to determine that location. I think it's going to pop up on my other screen. Oh, it's not going to let me pull it over. Dang, that's new. I used to be able to move it. Anyway, let me, so it's going to pop up, and it's going to prompt you with where you want to extract it to. During the extraction process, the process will move from file 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to how many there are, with the result being that you get the software added to the Autodesk folder. Actually, mine are here. Switch you. To the Autodesk folder, and then it's given, it's going to be the name of the downloaded product minus or backward up to the DLM. So if we go back and look in the downloads folder, when it downloads, this product will be called, or the folder would be called AutoCAD 2023 English Win64 DLM. Let's see if I can actually find that one. I know I have AutoCAD 2023 installed, so here it is here. And then you can go into that folder, and you have basically a copy of the media, so you can reinstall from there rather than having to go back and do another web install. So, and because the web install it's connected and everything, so it downloads and installs and downloads and installs. So if you have a bad internet connection, or for any reason that connection gets interrupted, then your software does not get installed fully. Now, sometimes it looks like it does and it starts and then you start running into problems. But if you download, extract, and install, then you have more consistent success, especially if you're doing this on multiple computers. It makes more sense, in my opinion, to download the software once, put it on a shared location, and install it from there. Okay, I want to go back into the Autodesk account and show you also where you can download the updates. So rather than having to go to computer to computer to computer to run the updates, you can also download those. Now the updates are, the licensing updates anyway, are going to be consistent through all software. So you can pick on any software cube, pick the view downloads, and then your licensing updates that are available will be listed here. So we have, this is the current licensing service update, 12.3.0.19, and then here's the single sign-on component. So you'll want to make sure that if you're going to download those, these are going to be, so the single sign-on is an MSI, which can be put on the server and users can run it from there, or you still will have to go to each workstation if you've got to put in admin credentials, but at least it will be on, you won't have to go here every time, download it to each computer, or you won't have to necessarily go and update the desktop app if you don't want to at that point in time. Back to the desktop app, this is also where all of your updates are presented. So you can either choose the little, I don't think I do. So if I only want to see my Revit updates, I can type in just Revit, and it just shows me all the Revit updates that I have available. I go back and forth. I'm a believer of it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I say that the licensing updates are mandatory, but the program updates are at your discretion. There are a couple of things with Revit, especially if you're working in the cloud, then you want, everybody needs to be on the same the same version, the same update of Revit. But some of the AutoCAD ones, if you want to just see what's available for AutoCAD, I typed it in the search bar, I'm sorry, that's the programs. You can also pick over on the side and see what's available. Excuse me. I like doing it this way. I'm going to have a coughing fit. Okay.
Happens to the best of us, no judgment.
I will mute you if I have to cough. If I disappear, that's what's happening. All right, so that's the desktop app and the updates that you have. One of the new things is, I told you earlier that Autodesk has discontinued network licensing, and that means that if you are a commercial account and your network licensing is coming up for renewal, you can't renew it as network. And usually what is presented is the ability to trade it in. So you trade in your network licensing. So for every network seat, you get 2 single user seats, and then those single user seats get added to your Autodesk account under the new view, the new management. So all the users that are currently sharing network licenses would need to be added to the Autodesk account and assign these licenses. Well, there are some companies that on the very first renewal, it was before the network licenses were discontinued, so they renewed for 3 years. So there are some companies that are actually still using a network license, and they may have another year or two, depending on their renewal, left. And the network licenses work a bit differently, so they aren't assigned to a user. The network license manager manages the use of those. So the workstation basically calls out to the license manager and says, hey, can I have a license? The network license manager says, sure, here you go. And then there's a heartbeat that goes between the two. Every once in a while, the workstation says, are you still there? And that's how the network license stays assigned to that workstation/user for the duration. When they close AutoCAD, that license is released and goes back into the network pool. Well, if the user using the network license happens to run one of those license updates from inside the desktop app, then it's going to require that the license manager, their network license manager, has to be updated to version 11.18, or even though they're not using the single user license, they won't be able to get a network license. They'll get a message that says that your network license manager is out of date. No, it's is an old version. I mean, the message in this case actually tells you what the problem is. It's kind of nice. But if you have any time left on your network license, you're going to have to update the license manager if anybody installs that license update to bring them up to the, what is it, the 11 or the 12.3.0.19. Now, if you want to know what version that your licensing service is, there are absolutely times that you run that update from the desktop app and it fails, and then so you still get the error messages saying, you know, you need to run this licensing update, and so you swear that this has been done. I've done this, but it's still not working. Well, you can go in and check. So we go to Program Files, Common Files, Autodesk Shared, and this shows you what version is installed. So this was the very first version that was installed on my computer, and then subsequent updates as they were presented to me in the desktop app, I ran those updates. And so you can see what version you're on. So if you're on the right version and you're still getting invalid messages or unable to start AutoCAD, that brings us to the next slide, is what do you do when this is the installed license types I was talking about. So the perpetual licenses, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go forward. So the different, if you get those error messages, then there is a sequence of events that you do to remove the existing licensing and then reinstall that licensing. Now, one of the things that I've done is I've written a couple of documents, 3 of them. So this one goes over the Autodesk account. So basically everything that I showed you is in this document. So hopefully when you are done, if you want this document, then it will help you, especially going from network to single user. It gives you all the steps you need to get through and get the software assigned. And then this would be, this one. When you are having problems getting that license, this document, when the license type will not change, this is helpful because it will shows you how to remove the licensing components to be able to reinstall them. We have these set up and be happy to provide them to you. I think at the end of this, Caitlin will step back in and do a poll. Okay, so there are the licensing components. Now, the different types of licenses that Autodesk has is a perpetual standalone license. Now, even though these licenses no longer can be purchased, if you had a maintenance contract, it's possible that you have a perpetual license that's still valid. And you are allowed, currently, you are allowed to use that software for as long as you can get it installed, but it can only be used on the current version. Or I should say the version that was current when the maintenance plan expired. So oftentimes this is maybe version 2019, 2022. You have the right to continue to use that license. Okay, I apologize. I muted myself because I couldn't stay the cough off any longer. So when you have a perpetual standalone license, it's no longer on contract, which means 2 things. You no longer have the right to use the previous version license. You only have the right to use the version that it is or was when it expired. And oftentimes that means people have used 2019 and they got to the point where they didn't want the subscription, so they just let their maintenance expire. Well, in the time, life has changed. Autodesk has updated, so they no longer have the right to use 2019, and the only way they can have the right to use 2019 is to purchase subscription, which gives you permission to use, support for the current version and 3 versions back, and then Autodesk currently is allowing for up to five versions to be used. But it's subscription, so then what you'll have to do is you'll have to change that license type on your computer from the perpetual license to the subscription license. So perpetual standalone, there will still be those that are allowed to be used. The named user subscription is what is current, and that is adding a user to the Autodesk account, assigning them software. They must sign in with their credentials to use the software. And then the multi-user, which is the network subscription, and that is currently, I don't think that there are any perpetual network licenses anymore. I think they're all subscription-based, which is what allows the 2-for-1. And then Autodesk has started a token flex, which is a you pay as you go. So you buy a bunch of tokens, and then you are assigned, at this point, you can assign out of that token what the user's allowed to use. And then every time you start the software, it uses a certain number of tokens for a 24-hour period. Each application uses a different number of tokens. So for instance, AutoCAD is going to use fewer tokens than say Civil 3D or Revit would use. And then you buy tokens by the thousands or 10,000s, depending on the size, usually the size of your organization and the actual need for the different tokens. So then we have the way, so to change your license type, you have, usually it's changing a perpetual or network license to a named user subscription. So then here are the ways that those licenses get changed. Now this is something, again, that Applied Software is more than happy to help with. So when you get to that point, you can either reach out to your customer service rep, and then they can put you in touch with technical support. Case is created, and then someone will call you and help you through this. Or you can open a case with our technical support department. That's one thing I should have added on here, is the way to open those cases, but I didn't. So then let's go to the next slide. And then do you want to take over this part of it, Caitlin?
You got it. So everybody, we've got a poll question that we'd like to get your answers on. We've put together several documents for step-by-step processes regarding the Autodesk accounts, license components, and changing installed license types, all those things that Denny discussed today. If you're interested in receiving any of these via email, please select below, and you can choose more than one.
We thought that this would be.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We thought that this. Sorry, Caitlin. We thought this would be a better way to present the documents rather than just this presentation tool doesn't allow us to upload them for download. So we thought this would be, rather than just sending them to everybody, let you request them. So if you want them, check the box. If you don't care, then don't worry about it. This is also something, if you're having problems and you open a case and end up with tech support helping, we can provide the document at that time as well.
Accidentally had the poll question and the poll results on the wrong place. So here's the poll question. Hopefully that wasn't too frustrating for everybody.
And then the rest of the time is just going to be spent for asking questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, and anything will help you however we can. Sometimes questions only come up when you actually start the process, and it makes perfect sense until you get in there and you're like, I don't remember. So again, call us at that point in time. We're happy to help.
Charlotte says she can't select anything. How interesting. Okay, if you just type in the Q&A box which one you would like.
I can select them. Is that because I'm the...
Oh, I was going to have them select or type in the Q&A box. Let's see. Documents. Not sure where I click. It should be a little box right next to the name. Interesting. If you can't click, just type in the Q&A and we'll have your name and email address and we can send it to you that way.
Yeah, so if you want to receive the documents, just put your name in the Q&A. You don't have to put any, well, unless you don't want all of them. If you just put your name, we'll send all of them. Otherwise, it is, just put your name, we'll send you all 3. Otherwise, put in what you want. And I mean, it might as well get all 3. You can always trash what you don't want, right? Are there any questions also?
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any questions, but we did have several people say they want. That must mean that I gave you.
Yep, I'm seeing those coming in. Well, if there's no questions, that must mean that I presented it perfectly.
That's what I say.
Or does that mean that?
Honestly, when no questions come in, I say that means you answered everybody's question already.
Or, as we said, the licensing is a little bit different than like when you're teaching or doing a presentation of new features or something. There's more questions there. The licensing isn't always. It's not a daily thing. So they don't come in until you have problems.